Welcome to the stream. It's Monday. Um, we did not read Higurashi this past Saturday. We are not going to be able to read Higurashi tomorrow on Tuesday because it is no stream tomorrow. Said before, but celebrating a friend's birthday. So, no stream tomorrow. So I was like, you know what? Ultimately, sat through today. I was like, you know what? We won't have another stream until Wednesday, but let's read Higurashi on a Monday. Let's do it. We have a start of a new arc. What is it? Let's look it up. We're gonna Toki Hogushi. Again, I'm sure I'm saying that 100% correct. Don't check me or correct me. I'm gonna say, as far as I understand, the second to last of the long arcs we got on this channel. I think if I look at the list of what we have next, apparently connecting fragments, not that long at all. Mitsukushi Ura is going to be long. I think that's the last super long arc that we're going to be reading. Omote, Omote, I think is going to be short because we've read it mostly through the PS2 version of Mitsukushi thing. And I think by us, like, we can skip through a lot of the parts we've already read. Apparently, that's a thing we can do. Kotoho Gushi, I think is pretty short. I think I've been told. Hajisarashi, I think is also very short, and then there's some epilogue thing. So really, I think this is our second, like I said, our second to last decently sized arcs. And even this one might not be super long compared to some others. But this is all hearsay. This is all just me inferring. Trying my best to plan things out. For a yet to be series for this channel in the future, I was working a lot today, dusting off and trying to make sure my old PS3 still works, and it totally does, and it still works like a charm. It was very funny booting it up, seeing what disc was in there, and seeing the profile of like an X still set up on it and everything, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's like a time capsule. But yeah, spent a lot of good portion of my day today getting that thing working, and then realizing that the PS3 doesn't have any way to disable HDCP, which is the, if unfamiliar for whatever reason, the setting, a setting on any like modern console that prevents you from being able to HDMI out a signal, like basically capture a signal through like the use of a capture card or something. And basically I need the PS3 potentially to capture some of the gameplay of a series again. Won't go too deep into right now, but I'm like, But apparently like the online fix is to buy like a certain very specific HDMI splitter and then go through all that. Sounds like a fucking headache if you ask me. So all I'm saying is, Konami, if you'd like to release Volume 2 of the Metal Gear Solid collection, that would be appreciated. Alright, so we are reading Tokihogushi. Now, I don't know what, again, say this at the start of all these arcs. No idea where this is going. No idea what this arc is. I thought I was... Well, how do I want to put it? I thought that the last three that we did, so this, and like this, or like this. Let me see my list again. Let me see my graphic. It was this, and This? No. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I was gonna say, I thought the last 3 arcs we did had to do with, like, the police investigation team with, like, Minai, Tomoe, and Oishi. Like, I thought we were done with that. But maybe this has more of that, but also this little picture. This little picture. Don't know who this is, so this is gonna be a new character. New character, new character. This is a new character. Alright, let's just get right into it. Tokihogushi? Something like that. Maybe we'll be in... Oh? Graves? This arc is the 3rd in the advanced story sequence. It can be read after completing Somitsushi, which we done, Kagebushi, which we just did, and Chapter 7, Minaroshi, of course. In October 1982, Tomoe Minai is investigating a mysterious death that she believes is somehow connected to Reina Ryugu. Okay. Interesting. So we're back with Tomoe. It says it's the 3rd in the advanced story sequence, which is... Maybe I was miscounting. Maybe at some point I was told, like, there's 3 advanced stories about the investigation team, and maybe this is the 3rd, and maybe I thought we were already, like, the last one was the 3rd. Maybe I'm counting the one that had older Mion Shion in, with Miyuki. Maybe I accidentally was counting that as the 1st. That's not right. Something like that. So yeah, let's get right to it. If you speak of justice, the others will laugh at you. What a naive, helpless thing to say. If you speak of evil, the others will berate you. What a callous, cruel thing to say. If you say nothing, nothing will be said. So in the end, everyone remains silent. Federica Bernkastel. So true. Not sure how long the stream is gonna be today. Can't commit to a time frame. I'm gonna be honest. It is Monday. It's been a long Monday. All things considered, especially after holiday weekend. Lots catching up to do. Lots of things. So, if it's short, apologies. We'll see. We'll see how much the energy, catches up. Also, dude, I was in the kitchen for a long time making food. I was trying a new cooking technique. I won't go into all the specifics, but it took a, you know, when you're trying a lot of new things in the kitchen, as you're cooking food for yourself, and you're like getting flustered, that's basically where I was at. It's Madoka. It says, after finishing her daily workload and making her way down the hallway, she could hear someone else walking behind a distant corner. Maybe that's Sis. It was just a hunch, but she stopped and listened more carefully. Then, she heard a faint but dignified-sounding voice greeting someone by saying, "Thank you for your hard work." As soon as she recognized her sister's voice, Madoka snapped her fingers and said, "Aha! Now's a good time to say thank you, I guess." Before long, she noticed the signs of that person approaching the corner. Sensing an opportunity to catch her by surprise, Madoka lightly smiled to herself, then cleared her throat and took a breath. Thanks for all the hard work, Assistant Director Minai. Madoka greeted her using the title she was finally starting to get used to, but as soon as she got a good look, she screamed. And then, some of the officials who were walking and talking alongside her stopped and looked startled. What happened, sis? Why do you look like this? Come on, Mado. I mean, Minai-san. It's important for you to keep your private life separate from the workplace. This is no time to be saying something like that. What on earth happened to your clothes? How did you get so injured? Naturally, Madoka raised her voice as she said that. Because once she was standing face to face with the person she was waiting for, her sister Tomoe's dress and appearance looked positively frightening. Suffice to say, it was awful, atrocious. One of her jacket sleeves was torn off, and the blouse below was torn as well. Not only that, but she could see several red cuts along the bare skin there, and scratches and welts too. Her hair was a mess, a red stain that was clearly blood was spread across her neck, and there was a bandage affixed near her mouth to stop the bleeding. On top of that, a tissue was packed into one of her nostrils.
いや、ちょっとね。
Oh, I had some trouble.
例の重要参考人を張り込んでたら、どういうわけか格闘になって、それで。
I was following a key witness related to a case, and somehow it led to a fight, resulting in this.
まあ見かけほど大した傷じゃないから大丈夫よ。
Well, it's not as bad as it looks. I'm alright.
大したことあるわよ。
This is a big deal.
ジャケットボロボロじゃない。
Your jacket is completely tattered.
腕も足も怪我だらけなんて、後残ったらどうすんのよ。
And there are still traces all over your arms and legs, you know.
労災出るかな。
Wonder if workers' compensation will cover it.
労災の前に生命保険の心配しろっての。
Forget workers' comp, you should be worried about life insurance.
大体今日の張り込みは退屈なくらい安全だから平気だってゆうべ言ってたじゃない。
First off, didn't you tell me just last night that today's case would be something boring and safe?
それが一体どういうわけ？
Then what on earth is this?
安全だったわよ。途中まではね。
It was safe at the start.
ただちょっとイレギュラーがあって強行せざるを得なくなったんだから仕方がないでしょ。
But something unexpected happened, so I had no choice but to use force, okay?
あ、取れた。
Whoops, came out. One of her tissues fell out. She said that. She caught it in one hand, still in good condition. The trace of blood beneath her nose looked stupidly painful.
なんて姿よ。
What an unbelievable sight. She was at her wit's end trying to deal with this woman. Although it could be biased speaking, Madoka thought her sister Tomoe definitely fit the bill to be called a beautiful woman. Her short trimmed hair gave an androgynous impression, but compared to female analysts and corporate secretaries, her neat intellectual appearance couldn't help but attract attention, regardless of gender. As a result, overreaching bachelors among her superiors, subordinates, and even colleagues secretly aimed for her ever since she was appointed to the station, so many that they couldn't be counted on two hands. But despite that, Tomoe insisted on walking around in a shabby condition like this, like some kind of third-rate actor. If anyone who had a crush on her saw her like this, they'd probably become disillusioned and might even lose their trust in women. That's a bit dramatic, yeah? I don't see anything. I don't see anything.
夢だ。
This is a dream.
俺が今見ているのは夢なんだ。
Everything I'm seeing right now is a dream. Feeling distraught, the men seem to be chanting some kind of Buddhist prayer while quickly making their escape. Hopefully that strange trauma doesn't taint their future perception of women. Pray for it.
まったくもう。
Unbelievable.
いくら警部さんだからって女の身で犯人とやり合うなんて無茶というか自殺行為だよ。
Even if you're a chief inspector, isn't it unreasonable to fight criminals head on with a woman's body? It's suicidal. Also, at the, partway through the last arc we were reading, like, Tomoe dies. And so this is like, if this is the third and final of this, like, advanced stories arc or whatever, do we finally get a happy ending? Because the last one didn't feel very happy, like, at all. It was bad. Sad. Mad. Doka.
水戸のご老公じゃあるまいし、警察手帳を見せたからって相手はひれ伏して抵抗をやめたりしないんだから。
You're like the elders in Mito. Your opponent isn't going to give up just because you flash a police badge.
ねえ、わかってる？
Okay, you understand?
わかってるわよ。水戸ってうっさいな。
I get it. Don't bring up Mito, okay?
今回のはたまたまだって言ってるでしょ。
I told you, this time it just happened by coincidence, alright?
しょっちゅうだったらたまんないわよ。
I can't take it if you keep this up.
ここは国連軍指定の紛争地域かっての。
What's next? An undesignated military conflict zone? Or a UN designated military conflict zone?
外国行ったこともないくせに。
I've never even been overseas.
ものの例えよ。
That's just an example. Then, Madoka noticed Tomoe's detective partner standing behind her and turned to vent her anger at him.
にしてもちょっと藤田さん
And what about you, Fujita-san?
あなたはこういう時のための静止役プラス護衛役でしょ
Aren't you supposed to keep her in check and protect her at times like these?
なのにちゃんとしてくれなきゃ困りま
But you can't even do that properly. But after yelling at him, something looked off about his expression, so she tilted her head to the side. The detective named Fujita quietly drooped his shoulders with a pale, completely exhausted look on his face, as if he had just returned from hell itself. Or rather, it seemed like he had so little presence here that he was liable to vanish any moment.
藤田さん
Fujita-san?
おーい
Hey,
無駄よ
it's useless.
今の藤田君死刑宣告よりも恐ろしい言葉を山のように食らって返事をしないただの屍状態だから
Fujita-kun is in a near-death state at the moment. Even if you fed him a mountain of words, he would just sit there without responding.
は
Huh? It was getting harder and harder to
あまあ
understand.
いいわ
Well, it's alright.
とにかくこのまま課長のところに行くわけにもいかないしちょっと着替えてくる
Anyway, can't see the section chief like this, so I need to get changed.
まどか悪いけどそのゾンビ君刑事一課まで連れて行ってちょうだい
Sorry, Madoka, but would you mind escorting Zombie-kun here to the 1st Criminal Division's office?
よろしくね
Thanks.
あちょっ
Wait!
と行っちゃった
And she's gone.
って自分こそ区別全然できてないじゃないの
I didn't do anything to deserve this. While grumbling to herself, Madoka pulled out a police notebook and recorded the date, time, and place Tomoe just mentioned. Ever since Tomoe was reassigned to Kakuichi Station, she was very careful not to refer to her sister as Madoka during official duties. Perhaps Tomoe intended to use it as a countermeasure if they ever got into an argument, but there was no time for that.
それにしても
Anyway,
優子
Yoko!
俺が悪かったから許してくれ
It was my fault, please forgive me!
本当に何があったのよ
Seriously, what happened? Madoka couldn't help but sigh at the completely unimaginable situation. October 1982. Nearly 2 months had passed since Tomoe completed her training with the National Police Agency and transferred to Kakuichi Station. Tomoe's official title was 3rd Wide Area Subsection Chief of the 1st Division of the Chubu region of the National Police Agency. An extremely long title, but in short, she was responsible for investigating cases involving multiple prefectures and areas within the Chubu region, coordinating and directing the activities of each prefectural police department involved. And within Kakuichi Station, she was appointed the title of Assistant Director. That put her at a higher position than the Section Chief of a mid-sized police station, which meant she had the 3rd highest rank here, just behind the Chief and Deputy Chief, allegedly. However, almost everyone who saw her official title reacted by saying how unfortunate.
いくらなんでも扱いがひどすぎるんじゃないか
Isn't that level of treatment completely unreasonable?
配属早々準キャリアのエリートさんを次長につけるなんて
I can't accept some elite trainee from the quasi-career class being assigned the title of assistant director so early in their career.
確かに修学旅行の行き先がウバステ山になったようなもんだからな
Absolutely. It's like learning the destination for our school field trip is some shabby mountain where they abandon elderly people. Fuck these people. After all, the title assistant director wasn't listed anywhere in the police regulations. It was invented to suit this particular purpose. It's not unusual for the National Police Agency to dispatch their executive candidates to small and medium-sized jurisdictions as part of their training. The goal, is to help them advance their career by gaining valuable experience conducting real on-site investigations. However, even though the candidates in these cases are often knowledgeable, they tend to come with a strong sense of elitism, so they rarely know when to shut their mouths or accept discipline. On top of that, they often engage in passionate, antagonistic speech and conduct to make themselves feel more important, which becomes a nuisance for those around them. Being bossed around by some young know-it-all can't be fun for detectives with experience in the field. So, instead of welcoming them with an open attitude, they scornfully refer to those candidates as field trip students behind their backs. Of course, the detectives on site embraced similar feelings toward Tomoe when she first arrived. Even though she was a beautiful young lady, they had an unfavorable opinion of her. However, once they heard stories about how Tomoe was assigned the assistant director post, they couldn't help but sympathize and ask, "Aren't you pushing yourself too hard?"
次長って役職まだあったんだな。
I guess the assistant director title is still a thing.
この5年間ずっと空席だったからてっきり廃止されたと思ってたぜ。
I thought they abolished it since it's been vacant for the past 5 years.
6年だろ。
Hasn't it been 6 years?
確か最後になったやつって堀口のじいさまだったはずだからな。
Last one was old man Higurashi, right?
そうだそうだ、思い出した。
That's right, I remember now.
とりあえずラッキーで昇進試験受かって警部になったけど全然結果出せなくて課長補佐止まりで。
He was lucky enough to pass his promotion exam and become chief inspector, but never had the results to go for section chief.
定年前の1年だけ箔付けについたって話だぜ。
And he earned the title just a year from retirement simply to make him look more important.
ああ、そういやあったな、そんな噂が。
Ah, I heard rumors about that.
実際あの堀口のじいさんって次長になってから毎日暇そうに机に座って新聞ばっか読んでたっけ。
Truth is, after old man Horiguchi reached assistant director, just sat at his desk and read the paper every day.
いくら使えないからって一日中やる仕事もないってのは見ていてちょっと気の毒だったな。
Considering how little work he did all day, it was depressing just watching him. It wasn't an official position anyway, so had no authority over the detectives within the station, and more importantly, had no actual responsibilities. And on top of that, the role didn't command any subordinate detectives. It was an honorary position that simply left them hanging there.
いくら給料ただ取りでもあの次長職だけは俺はごめんだね。
No matter how much it pays, I can't help but pity anyone in the assistant director role.
それにしても一体どうしてこんな人事になったんだ。
Anyway, what on earth are the personal administration folks thinking?
畑副所長の意向だよ。
It was an order from the deputy chief Hata.
仮にも中央の幹部候補生さんに合うようなポストが課長補佐では低すぎるってのが理由だとさ。
I assume it was because the assistant section chief role would be too high for this executive candidate.
低いも何もだからって窓際に置くか普通。
Even if the candidate is too low for it, why not put her at the window seat like normal? Ordinarily, it's customary for a quasi-career group detective at the chief inspector level to be assigned a post supporting the section chief of a criminal investigation division. Indeed, when a case springs up requiring a wide area investigator's involvement, that's a position that can give orders to everyone involved, even as high as the chief of the precinct. Although, that only happens when an incident like that one occurs. Nevertheless, being placed in a position outside the norm is an unusual deviation, and seemingly driven by malicious intentions.
仕方ないさ。あの子って確か山沖所長直々の招聘って話だろ。
Can't be helped. After all, she was invited directly by Chief Yamaoki, wasn't she?
ということは副所長が早速目をつけて飛ばしたってことだよ。
That completely overrides the deputy chief's opinion.
またそれかよ。たく
This again? Unbelievable.
こんな小さな警察署で何派閥作っていがみ合ってんだか。
How can such a small police station have factions infighting?
バカバカしくないのかね。
How ridiculous.
まったくだ。
Absolutely. Even though they were thinking that, none of them were willing to stand up and oppose it. After all, getting involved would be like eavesdropping on someone else's affairs, and would earn the ire of upper management. Tomoe will return to her former post at the National Police Agency as soon as the training period ends, in which case there's no point fighting a righteous battle of justice. That was why everyone was simply watching from afar and didn't get themselves involved. Getting involved was taking a gamble on how it would play out.
で、あの修学旅行生さんはどう出ると思う？
So, how do you think this field trip student will turn out?
ま、順当な線では中部管区局のお偉方に泣きつくんだろうな。
Well, I figure she'll go crying to the Chubu district station.
そんでその後はどこか別の署に配置換えになるって流れだろう。
Then after that, she'll get reassigned to another station somewhere.
いや、それだとわざわざ研修出向で呼び寄せた所長のメンツが立たないぜ。
Well, why would the chief go to the trouble of bringing on a trainee?
俺はとりあえず何かの実績に便乗するまで長いバカンスだと思って適当に過ごすと思うけどな。
I think it's an attempt to piggyback on some other achievement and earn a nice long vacation.
現場で活躍することなんて上は求めてないんだからさ。
Nobody ever asked to take part in field work.
どうかな。キャリアウーマンってのはとにかく男社会に対して攻撃的で自意識過剰だからな。
I wonder about that. Career women sometimes feel self-conscious working in male-dominated society.
ガンガン上にも下にもぶつかって盛大に空回りし続けるんじゃないか。
They have to keep pushing themselves through the highs and lows, right?
で、 プライドがガタガタになって落ち込んでる彼女を慰めて口説いちまうってか？
So, are you suggesting she needs comfort for her battered pride?
ドラマの見過ぎだっての。
Sounds like you've been watching too many dramas.
いいじゃねえか。
Fine then.
気は強そうだけどあの子結構レベル高いぜ。
That girl seems sharp, but at that high level?
ま、そうでなくてもあの子を狙ってるやつ知ってるだけでも結構いるんだからな。
Well, plenty of guys have their eye on her, I know that much.
誰が落とすか、それも見ものさ。
Who will get knocked down first? That's worth looking out for. But of course, the arbitrary predictions those detectives made were ultimately betrayed at a later date. Tomoe wasn't the pale-faced weakling they had grown accustomed to from elite course members, and she wasn't a coward or willing to back down. She was elite in the truest sense.
あの小娘がまたお手柄か？
That girl did another outstanding job, huh?
まったく腹の立つ話だな、小島君。
How obnoxious, right, Kojima-kun?
おっしゃる通りです。
Indeed.
これはちょっと我々の想像を超えていましたね。
This is unimaginable.
想像も何も悪運が強いと感心しているだけだ。
I don't know about unimaginable. Just a major case of bad luck. The section chief of the 2nd Criminal Investigation Division, Okabe, irritatedly leaned back into his armchair while sipping down his lukewarm tea. Standing at the ready beside him was his right-hand man, a shabby-looking flunky known as Deputy Section Chief Kojima. Kakuji City has enjoyed accelerating population growth as a commuter town in recent years thanks to the construction of the Kakuji Airport, the largest in the Chubu region. The Kakuji Police Station was in charge of all cases in the area, so the Criminal Investigation Department had to be divided in two in order to manage the large quantity of cases of investigators. The 1st Criminal Investigation Division is headed by the mild-mannered Section Chief Yamamura. And the 2nd Criminal Investigation Division has Section Chief Okabe at the top. At the moment, the former is responsible for burglary, general enforcement, and the latter handles intelligence and violent cases, although in a city of this size it can be difficult to clearly distinguish the two. So in reality, the investigation activities compete with one another for territory, and the detectives belonging to each party despise those in the other party. They fight like cats and dogs. That's why 2nd Division Chief Okabe's mood would sour anytime the 1st Division performed well.
今日捕まえたやつは例の密売グループの重要参考人という話じゃないか。
The guy they caught today is a key member of that smuggling group, isn't he?
これで先月に続いて今月も一家の奴らにでかい顔をされるな。
Folks in the 1st Division are going to have shit-eating grins this month, just like last month.
二課の連中は何をやっていた？
What were the people in the 2nd Division doing?
あ、はい。
Right.
二課の捜査員は今、先日県警本部が立ち上げた合同捜査本部のもろもろ雑用に駆り出されて、大半がかかりっきりになっています。
Right now, the investigators of the 2nd Division are supporting joint investigations headed by prefectural police headquarters, which is taking up the majority of their time.
それで他の捜査の処理が遅れていて。
Thanks to that, progress on other investigations has been delayed.
なあ、分かった。もういい。
Right, I get it. That's enough. Okabe bitterly spat the words out. When prefectural headquarters submitted a request for a joint investigation, he was the one who pushed for the 2nd Division to handle it in the first place, hoping to earn points in the process. So, hearing that the delay in their proceedings was ultimately his fault only worsened his mood.
一課は今月だけで3件、県警本部でも未解決だった重要事件の解決に貢献しています。
Just this month, the 1st Division has contributed to the resolution of 3 major cases that Prefectural HQ couldn't solve on their own.
現行犯逮捕を本部の刑事たちに譲って、実績に残らない事件については確認できるだけでも4件。
And there are another 4 cases where detectives apprehended criminals and handed them over to HQ, even if the incidents weren't directly resolved.
おかげで機動捜査隊の早見隊長などは彼女のことを姫と呼んで相当に目をかけているそうです。
Thanks to that, Captain Hayami of the Mobile Investigation Team has been watching that woman closely. He's even started calling her Princess.
姫か。
Princess, huh?
バカバカしいほどご大層な呼び名だな。
What a ridiculous nickname.
それだけ実力を認めているということだと思います。
I think it's his way of acknowledging her capability.
実際県警の堂島課長は非公式ではありますが山沖所長に彼女の捜査一課での引き受けを本気で打診したとのことで。
In fact, Section Chief Dojima from Prefectural HQ unofficially contacted Chief Yamaoki, asking about hiring a female investigator from the 1st Division.
酒の席での社交辞令だよ。
That's just lip service at the drinking table.
それを聞いていた噂好きが面白おかしく誇張して広めただけだ。
Simply spreading strange, exaggerated rumors.
それほど県警本部は人材不足というわけではないしな。
Besides, Prefectural HQ has no shortage of talented staff. Although, if she kept at the current pace, she was likely to receive an invitation to Prefectural Police HQ after training. Even if it was just lip service, it was proof that her work had attracted their attention. Plus, even though Okabe mentioned luck earlier, there's no denying she had the skills to back it up. She was definitely one of the most talented people here. After all, her father was a well-known officer at the Metropolitan Police Agency's Public Security Division, respected by superiors and subordinates alike, Detective Yusuke Minai. He lost his life in a fire 11 years ago, but his will lives on in his daughter Tomoe. Her time as an official earned her the attention of her father's former bosses, colleagues, including some powerful people. She also passed her promotion test with top marks every single time, and she majored in psychology and did language studies at a national university, so she was capable of fluently explaining investigation policies to others. Additionally, she kept herself busy writing numerous papers on improving investigation methodology. Prefectural police staff always assessed her well when reporting back to the National Police Agency. She was a gifted woman. In fact, her exceptional evaluations alone were enough to carry her through national tests. She was on the quasi-career path, but if she had taken the national tests on the career path, she would probably be serving as a police bureaucrat by now. In other words, the only bottleneck in Tomoe's career advancement was the fact that she was a woman. Beyond that, there was nothing mysterious about her success.
推薦組の肩書きは伊達ではなかったわけだ。
So, the recommended group title wasn't just for show. The National Police Agency trained specialists in the recommended group, which they handpicked from jurisdictional offices, the so-called quasi-career path. Tomoe making it through that narrow gate at such a young age caused a scandal, since it essentially promised a promotion to the role of police inspector. But Okabe had a completely different outlook, since he believed the police should promote people after years of service, regardless of how hard they work, give them a warm reception at retirement.
近い将来、あの小娘を上司に仰ぐことになるのか。
Guess I should ask the boss about that little girl soon. Thinking about it made him feel downhearted. The police force is an organization where academic background and starting position matter more than performance and experience. When it comes to personal administration, career advancement is often determined more by political factions and power relations. In fact, Tomoe received a major boost for attending Kashima University, following the advice of other alumni. As a result, Kabe was unable to set aside the jealousy from his inferiority to this blessed little girl. He was deeply frustrated.
メス取り歌えば家滅ぶというが、世も末だな。
They say a house falls when the hen crows louder than the hawk. Nope. A house falls when the hen crows louder than the cock. So the world may be at its end.
若い小娘が大きな顔で桜の大門を振りかざすようでは、警察の威厳も落ちたというものだ。
The dignity of the police department has fallen if a wide-eyed little girl is fit to bear the Sakura emblem of the police force.
そうは言いましても実績を上げているのは確かです。
Be that as it may, there's no denying her proven track record.
うちの二課の連中でさえ南次長の見識と手腕は今までの修学旅行生とは違うと申しております。
Even among our 2nd Division staff, they say that Assistant Director Minai's skills and insights far surpass those of a typical field trip student.
それは私に見る目がなかったと言いたいのか？
Is that your way of saying I don't have an eye for people?
いえそういうことでは。
No, I didn't mean it like that.
あくまでも現場の連中がそう漏らしていたという話で。
That's just what I overheard from people at the last crime scene. Kojima got flustered and started making excuses after Okabe scornfully glared at him. For someone so normally loyal to him as Kojima to say that meant the things he said here could very well be cause for concern. Chief Yamaoki came here from Central 1 year ago, clearly was on bad terms with Deputy Chief Hata, who was a local rising through the ranks. Rumors allege that personnel staff aggressively pushed to have Yamaoki transferred here from his former post at Public Security, which completely eliminated Hata's chances at becoming the next chief. And from then on, the police department was clearly divided into two factions, with Okabe and the 2nd Division's detectives supporting the Deputy Chief's faction, and the General Affairs and Transportation Division supporting the Chief's faction. Meanwhile, the 1st Criminal Division, headed by Section Chief Yamamura, tried to stay out of the faction wars and place themselves in the neutral faction. But Hata was still worried that they would lean toward the Chief's faction at some point in the future. As a result, he was staunchly opposed when the Chief proposed assigning Tomoe a post at Kakuichi Station, assisting the Section Chief of the 1st Division.
やはりいくら優秀でも若年に加えて女性ですからな。
After all, no matter how exceptional she may be, she's still young and a woman.
個性派で職人気質の連中を従えるには荷が勝ちすぎていると思いますが。
I think individuals with a strong work ethic are assuming too heavy a burden. And so on. He continued rattling off reasons. However, Hata believed Tomoe to be a member of the Chief's faction, so his real intention was to separate Tomoe from the 1st Division and stop Chief Yamaoki from expanding his influence. Although, Okabe was also opposed to transferring her to the 2nd Division, even if that would place her under the Deputy Chief's faction. That was because her abilities were still unknown. It was a big risk to bring aboard someone as inexperienced as her. If she screwed up, he was concerned that she could do something to damage his image. But above all else, he'd simply underestimated her. As a result, Hata strongly campaigned for Tomoe to be given the honorary assistant director post, a do-nothing position intended to keep her out of the way.
ここまでは良かった。
Up until then, everything was good. However, Hata and Okabe miscalculated. They thought Yamamura was neutral, but he suddenly invited Tomoe to serve as the Chief of Special Affairs within the 1st Division, delegating her investigative authority. Incidentally, the title of Chief of Special Affairs is a specially appointed role originally intended for experienced police officers to serve as an advisor to the section chief on a part-time basis. Allegedly. However, the role was originally designed to be given to retirees, so very few active duty police officers have been given the position at all.
何でも見ない警部は欧米式の捜査手法についていろいろと知識がおありのようですから。
I'm told Chief Inspector Minai has knowledge of various Western investigation methods.
現場の連中にもその実行がどんなものかを実際に学ばせるいい機会だと思います。
I think this is a good opportunity to let our people in the field learn how effective they can actually be. But as a result, he completely withdrew from investigation activities, essentially retired from the front lines, leaving Tomoe as the effective leader of the 1st Division. Yamamura was carrying out an outright act of rebellion against the likes of Hata and Okabe, whose disgustingly uptight personalities were quick to harass those field trip students. However, that decision proved the efficacy of Tomoe's behavioral analysis investigation methodology in no time at all. Consequently, 1st Division's performance improved remarkably within just a single month. Even Yamamura was astonished by how much the results exceeded his expectations.
それならばむしろ二課へ取り込んでおくべきだったな。
If only she had joined the 2nd Division. He bitterly lamented the mistake he had made back then. If Tomoe had been assigned to the 2nd Division, the department would have had an excellent assistant for the section chief, rather than a man like Kojima who blindly followed orders. Their evaluations would have been completely reversed. And even if that wasn't the case, he would have had the power to limit her actions. But Okabe also understood the folly of looking at things in hindsight.
それにしても岡部課長。
Anyway, Section Chief Okabe,
なんだ
what is it?
いや、ずっと不思議に思っていることなんですが、
Well, there's something I've been wondering all this time.
南井次長と山脇所長はどうしてあんなにもいがみ合っているのでしょうか。
Why are Assistant Director Minai and Chief Yamaoki so tightly knit?
常識的に考えても所長派であればあの言動は。
Thinking about it logically, even if she were a member of the Chief's faction, her speech and conduct is...
そんなもの 単なる周囲へのパフォーマンスだよ。
That's merely an act for the people around her.
なんせあの小娘の妹は
In particular, for her younger sister. Achoo. After changing clothes and walking down the hallway, Tomoe held her hand to her nose and sneezed. As soon as she did, the remnants of her earlier nosebleed came out, and the smell put a frown on her face.
誰か噂してる？
Is someone talking about me? Tomoe suddenly shook her head for saying something so ridiculous. One of her defining principles was not to believe in superstition.
ただいま。
I'm here.
あ、おかえりなさい。
Oh, welcome back. As Tomoe opened the door of the break room, Madoka got up from one of the seats and called out to her. Was she ready to head out for the day? She was already dressed in civilian clothes.
こら、窓か。
Hey, Madoka.
制服未着用で警察の関係施設を利用するのはご法度よ。
You know it's illegal to conduct work at a police facility when not in uniform.
やれやれ。入ってくるなり第一声がそれですか。
Sheesh. It's the first thing you say after walking in?
こっちとらわざわざサービス残業までして藤田さんの愚痴に付き合ってあげていたというのに。
And even after I put in overtime to deal with Fujita-san's grumblings? Madoka shrugged her shoulders and bitterly smiled as she said that. Her face looked fatigued, so it seemed reasonable for her to be agitated.
そういえば、当の藤田くんは？
Speaking of Fujita-kun, where is he?
ああ、とりあえず帰るって。
Oh, he headed home for now.
帰ってとにかく土下座でも何でもして奥さんに謝るってさ。
He said he needed to kneel down and apologize to his wife.
まったく。
Unbelievable.
だったらせめて一言くらい言ってから帰りなさいっての。
At least say a few words to me before heading home.
とばっちり食らわせた後だから顔合わせづらいんでしょ。
Whatever happened, he was looking at me like a total stranger.
とりあえず次長に謝っておいてって繰り返してたよ。
Anyway, kept repeating apologize to the assistant director.
気持ちはわかるけどさ、あんまりいじめちゃダメじゃない。
I understand how you feel, but you can't push him around that much.
いじめてないわよ、まだ。
I haven't pushed him around. Not yet. Well, the truth is, she intended to say that a bit sarcastically, but Fujita's depression made it hard to lash out at him full demon style.
まあいいか。余裕なかったんだろうしね。
Well, suppose it's fine. There's no time for it anyways. Tomoe bought a can of coffee from the vending machine while muttering that to herself. She immediately pushed the hot button before remembering that it was already autumn.
まどかもいる？
You want one too, Madoka?
この後外食なんだけど。まあ、いっか。
I'm going out to eat after this, but, well, why not?
ウーロン茶、冷たいやつね。
I'll have an oolong tea, cold.
はいはい。
Sure thing. Tomoe inserted a coin and pushed the button for oolong tea. Once the sound of the falling can rang out, she grabbed the can and tossed it with a flick of her wrist.
お金は？
What do I owe you?
いらないわよ。
Don't worry about it.
ま、私からの残業代ってことでどう？
Well, consider it payment for making you work overtime.
あの泣き言を延々聞かされた代価がこれってのはちょっと納得いかないんだけどな。
I can't say it's a fair price for the endless whining I had to endure. Madoka pulled the tab as she said that, then chugged 2 big gulps. The cold sensation across her throat felt comforting.
にしてもまあ、お姉ちゃんも災難だね。
Well, anyway, you look like a disaster too, sis.
まさか藤田さんと一緒に張り込みしているところを浮気現場と間違えられるなんてさ。
I wouldn't be surprised if someone thought you and Fujita-san just got back from the local hookup spot.
何やってたの？
What were you doing?
別に変なことはしてないわよ。
Nothing weird happened.
ちょっと周りの騒音がひどかったから耳元に顔を寄せて話してたのが。
It was awfully noisy. It was awfully noisy nearby, so I had to lean my face close to his ear and talk to him. That's all it was.
キスしてるように見られたってわけね。
But it looked like a kiss to her, huh?
なんとまあお約束な。
Talk about cliche. Even hearing it again, it was a ludicrous story. Recently, his wife had started to become suspicious of him saying he was working overtime and coming home late, so she started following him. Well, that didn't seem like such an unusual thing for a jealous woman to do. However, she pushed herself into their secret meeting place at a coffee shop, which was actually a stakeout, and released her full fury on Tomoe, based on the misunderstanding that she was his mistress. Naturally, Madoka was amazed. It would have been nice to get an actual explanation for stooping to such measures.
藤田さんの奥さんってやきもち焼きっていうかすごい人みたいだね。
Fujita-san said his wife was a jealous woman. Extremely so.
なんでまあそんなきっつい人と一緒になろうって思ったのやら。
Why did he have to get paired with someone so clingy?
小学校からの幼馴染らしいわよ。
Apparently they were old friends from elementary school.
それとその言い方はやめなさい。
And stop bringing it up.
あんただって他人のことが言えるわけ？
You're not exactly in a position to be talking about others, are you?
おっといけねえ。
Oh, my bad. Madoka quietly backed off when she noticed her jab cut deeper than expected. After all, as far as the public was concerned, Madoka's partner was even more surprising.
で、喫茶店で激しい口論となり、修羅場劇となったところで、重要参考人が偶然喫茶店を訪問。
Then, an intense argument broke out at the coffee shop. All hell broke loose because a key witness just happened to be visiting that coffee shop.
そしてうっかり張り込み中だと藤田さんが口にしたのを聞かれて、刑事がいるとバレて逃げられた。
And then Fujita-san carelessly let the word stakeout slip out, so the witness realized that detectives were present and ran away.
そのまま追っかけっこの始まり。
Which caused a chase to break out.
さすがに引っ込みがつかなくてね。
Naturally, we couldn't let him escape.
このまま逃げられたら絶対警戒されて証拠物も隠滅される可能性があったし。
He was an especially cautious individual, so there was a high probability he would destroy evidence if he managed to get away.
一か八かだったけど。
We had to take the chance.
さらっと流すなよ。
Don't just ignore me. Madoka dejectedly drooped her shoulders. As usual, she couldn't take a joke. Still, Tomoe came out ahead on that risky bet. The witness drew a knife while trying to resist, so that violation of the swords and firearms control law allowed them to search his pockets. As luck would have it, they found a business notebook and evidence among his belongings. They later found out he was stopping at the coffee shop to take a call on his way to meet a business partner. Although Prefectural Police HQ already had a head start on the case, handing the culprit over hastened the resolution of a big-name drug trading operation.
でも、その頃藤田さんは地獄だったんだって？
But Fujita-san was going through hell at the time, wasn't he?
どんな感じだったの？
How was he taking it?
戻った時には奥さんはいなくて、藤田くんは床に体育座りしてたからな。
When I came back, his wife was already gone, and Fujita-kun was sitting on the floor with his arms around his knees.
マスターの話だと、お決まりのあなたを殺して私は逃げるが始まっていたらしいわよ。
The manager said the incident started with a routine, I'll kill you and run.
いや、私も死ぬの間違いでしょ。
Well, wouldn't it end up more like I'll die too?
逃げてどうするのよ。
What would he even do if he escaped? She unceremoniously threw that out, then let out a heavy sigh. That was Fujita being Fujita, and Sis being Sis. It was all just speculation, but Madoka could understand how both of them were thinking. Indeed, if you saw your husband having a good time with another woman prettier than you, you'd inevitably fall into a panic and feel self-conscious.
古風な考え方のくせに、自分が美人だって自覚が全然ないからな。
For someone with such an old-fashioned mindset, she has absolutely no idea how pretty she is. Her sister's sin was failing to recognize how good she actually looked. That's why she could never imagine herself getting caught up in matters of love. If only she recognized herself a little better as a woman.
にしても、よく捕まえられたよね。
Anyway, you did good capturing the guy.
犯人って元陸上の県代表だったんでしょ？
The culprit was a prefecture-wide track and field competitor, right?
陸上っていうなら私だってそうよ。
I did track and field too, you know.
しかも、こっちの方が年は若くて持久力もあるんだからね。
And I still have the endurance of youth.
走り高跳びと持久力ってなんか関係あったっけ？
But you competed in the high jump. How does that have anything to do with endurance?
冗談よ。
It's a joke.
さらっと流しなさいっての。
Just ignore me.
お姉ちゃんのジョークは分かりにくいんだよ。
Sis, your jokes are hard to understand. As she said that, Madoka was too embarrassed to tell her sister she expected as much. It would be impossible for an ordinary detective to track down and catch a perpetrator with intimate knowledge of the area who is capable of breaking through a blockade. And when a retreating opponent draws a military knife, it would be absurd to fight them off completely barehanded, not even armed with a baton. But she apprehended him anyway. It was amazing.
だからといって見習う気にはなれないけどね。
But That's not an example I feel like following. Indeed, Sis was Sis, and Madoka was Madoka. Her sister probably felt the same way. She couldn't impose her values about police duties on others. Madoka was thankful for that.
ところで
By the way. Huh?
さっき今夜これから外食だって言ってたわよね。
A little while ago, you mentioned that you were going out to eat tonight.
相手は誰？
With who?
まさか一人で食べる
There's no way
わけないよね、あんたが。
that you'd be eating alone. She awkwardly laughed while chiding herself deep in her heart. As expected of the shrewd, best-in-class princess of Kakuji Station, a trifling misstatement could cost you your life.
そのね
That's, you know,
だから
so
言っておくけど嘘を言ったら怒るわよ。
just so you're aware, if you lie to me, I'll get upset, okay?
本当のことを言ったら
But what happens if I tell the truth?
場合による。
That depends on the circumstances.
ただしある条件については無条件に怒る。
There are certain circumstances that would make me upset regardless.
いやその
Well, Madoka was confident the current situation fit into those certain circumstances, so she darted her eyes back and forth, stuck in place, unable to tell the truth of a lie. Unable to tell the truth or a lie. Truth of a lie doesn't make sense. Enough. She wished their values matched up when it came to this too.
とりあえずうまい言い逃れの方法
Anyway, a good evasive answer would be...
あるわけね
Impossible! She tried to think of the name of another colleague, anyone appropriate, but she quickly gave up on that idea. She had used that trick before and things turned sour the next day. Tomoe was unreasonably upset. If this was anything like that case, Madoka would deeply regret it later on.
お姉ちゃん誤解してるよ。
Sis, it's all a misunderstanding.
本当普段はああだけど全然悪い人じゃないんだから。
Seriously, it's totally normal. Not a bad person.
そりゃもう今晩行くところだってきちんとしたところで
And we're going to a nice place tonight. No good. No matter what she said, it was useless. With that in mind, Madoka was already thinking about what she should say to apologize to her partner, Yamaoki, who was already waiting for her.
まいいわ
Well, that's fine. Huh? But, surprisingly enough, Tomoe was unusually consolatory and didn't pry any further. After that reaction, Madoka turned and stared blankly in her direction.
時間は大丈夫なの
How are you doing on time?
なんなら近くまで送って行ってあげようか
If you like, I could take you there.
いやそれはいいけどっ
No, that's not necessary.
ていうかその行ってもいいの
But are you saying you're okay with me going?
いいも何ももう予約しているんでしょ
Doesn't matter if I am or not. You already have a reservation, right?
もったいないし行ってきたら
Wouldn't it be wasteful not to go?
う
Huh?
ん
Oh, yeah.
そうするね
Then I'll go. Okay? As she nodded, Madoka gazed at Tomoe not with partial trust, but full-blown suspicion. It was weird. She was unusually understanding. Extremely so. It was well known within the station that Tomoe was fiercely opposed to Madoka's engagement to Chief Yamaoki. Earlier, she got into an argument with Madoka inside the chief's office and made a huge uproar, ranting and saying things like, "Think about his age, he's a senile old
普
man!"
通の警察署なら間違いなく懲戒食らってるよね
If this was an ordinary police station, she would have been reprimanded. And with that in mind, somehow, Madoka felt like acting on Tomoe's words would be falling into a trap. She felt anxious.
お姉ちゃん
Sis,
分かってるよね
you understand, right?
今日一緒に行くのってカオルさんなんだけど
The person I'm going out with today is Kaoru-san.
だから
So?
いやだからその
No, I mean, what could she do? She had absolutely no idea if this conversation was a trap. Should she accept it at face value and thank her for her trust before going? Or maybe.
何深読みしてるのよ。
Why are you reading so deeply into this?
私は普通にいってらっしゃいと言ってるの。
This is where I normally say take care.
え
Huh? Tomoe let out a sigh and turned to Madoka. Then she shrugged her shoulders and gently fiddled with the empty coffee can in her hand and spoke up.
まあいくら姉妹でも他人の恋愛に口を出すのってみっともないしね。
Well, even if we are sisters, it's shameful to speak ill of another person's romantic life.
言いたいことは言ったつもりだし、あとはあんたの見る目に任せるわ。
I've said what I want to say, and I'll leave the rest to your judgment.
それ
Really?
結婚に関してはともかく、交際のことはこれ以上私は何も言わない。
When it comes to your marriage, I won't say anything more.
応援はさすがにしたくないけど、邪魔もしない。
I'm not exactly cheering you on, but I won't get in your way.
結局最後はまどか次第だもんね。
In the end, this is your decision to make, Madoka.
お姉ちゃん
Sis! A gleeful smile spread across Madoka's face. She struggled to hold back the tears welling up in her eyes. If anyone else had heard that, probably wouldn't have been a big deal. But still, this was the first time Tomoe ever showed a positive attitude toward their relationship. Of course, it was a rather sudden development, and she was still baffled. Plus, she still didn't understand what inspired this change in her sister. But she was thankful to hear her say it, and she was glad.
じゃあ行ってくる。
Then I'll get going.
ありがとうねお姉ちゃん。
Thanks, sis.
あ、まどか。
Oh, Madoka.
何？
What is it?
うん、なんでもない。
No, it's nothing.
行ってらっしゃい。
Take care. Yep. Then Madoka leapt out of the break room at a quick pace. How sweet.
また聞けなかった。
Again, couldn't ask. She sank deep into the cheap armchair, leaned back, and looked up at the ceiling. The flickering fluorescent lights flashed the shadows of the bugs flying near the lights. Even though it should be hot enough to burn them, they couldn't defy their instinctual attraction to light. Tomoe bitterly smiled as she watched that, then let out a heavy sigh.
悪い人じゃないか。
Not a bad person, huh?
知ってるわよ。あんたよりも長いんだから。
I've known that even longer than you. As Madoka already knew, Tomoe had known Yamaoki for even longer than her. If Madoka knew him for 2 or 3 years, Tomoe was acquainted with him for roughly double that. They were acquainted before she even became a police officer.
だからこそなんだけどな。
That's why. But even so, the difference in age was still acceptable. There were various circumstances making her feel hesitant, but she could be convinced. But were the rumors whispered about her and Chief Yamaoki actually true, or an unfounded lie? Even now, Tomoe was worried that the truth had eluded her this whole time.
姉の出世のために所長をたぶらかしたか。
Was she only pursuing the chief to help advance my career? The explanation seemed absurd, but Tomoe wasn't confident enough to disregard it. In reality, Tomoe was chosen for the National Police Agency's recommended group from her post in Ibaraki last summer. Additionally, Yamaoki was appointed as chief of Kakuji Station, and Madoka was inducted as a police officer last spring. It would be odd not to suspect circumstances like that. The details were rather persuasive.
でも実際のところはどうなんだろう。
But I wonder how much truth there is to that. Did Madoka truly pursue Yamaoki for her sister's sake? And in response, Yamaoki convinced upper management to choose her for the recommended group? There were certainly clues pointing to the truth, but Tomoe hadn't heard it from the two of them directly, and her suspicions were still a bit too baseless to ask about them herself. And so, she alone was being swayed by the rumors.
そもそもなんでまどかは警察官に？
Why did Madoka even become a police officer in the first place? When Madoka first announced she was going to be a police officer, Tomoe was delighted to learn that her sister was taking her career more seriously. But, after hearing these rumors, she was starting to feel the complete opposite. Tomoe had a prejudiced view of Madoka for working at a cabaret club before she became a police officer. And when it was later revealed that she was in a relationship with Chief Yamaoki, the whole thing was cast in a curious light. But simply thinking it through, she didn't need to become a police officer to buy the chief's favor. Instead, it must have been something much larger and more illicit. She had to understand that she'd be criticized and reproached if it was exposed, So why did she become a police officer?
まあいっか。
Well, whatever. Tomoe had always been unable to comprehend Madoka and Yamaoki's relationship, so she constantly pushed back against it. She only recently came to realize that Madoka truly did have feelings for Yamaoki, in which case, all she could do was tell Madoka everything she needed to as her older sister. There was no choice but to believe the rumors weren't true, and to watch over the girl and her lover.
恋人か。
Her lover, huh? She suddenly muttered that to nobody in particular. Several men had confessed to Tomoe back when she was a student, and even after joining the police force. But even though she had been in several relationships, she never had a truly deep relationship with anyone, even today. It wasn't that she hated men or was hard to deal with, she just never had a yearning for someone that she could confidently say was love. But there was something more important to Tomoe than that. A serious purpose that couldn't escape her mind, even while she was interacting with the people around her.
だからあの子には幸せになってもらいたい。
So, I want her to be happy.
私の分まで。
Happy enough for the both of us. She was certain she couldn't move forward until she settled the past, but she wanted her sister to go on living, thinking of the future. It may be a selfish wish, but there was no obligation for her to choose the same way of life as her sister. Tomoe looked down from the ceiling and opened the desk drawer, then pulled out a file from inside. Inside was a polyethylene storage bag containing the carefully separated pages of a notebook. And that was the only clue Tomoe's father, Yusuke Minai, left behind. "11 years ago, 1971. Sunday. 3 weeks had passed since the fire that killed her parents and tore her sister's heart apart. Tomoe was discharged from the hospital after recovering from her mental and physical injuries and returned to the burned remains of her home. With the permission of the police, she walked through the gate and stepped into the scorched garden. Tomoe looked at the house while desperately trying to suppress the crushing anguish she'd felt about the incident. Tomoe and Madoka's room was supposed to be on the second floor, but it had already collapsed, leaving only the remains behind. There was a single sandal remaining on the balcony, probably belonging to their mother who used to sunbathe there. The clothespins were deformed from the heat and lying strangely on the ground. Her father's only pleasure, his to-do-it-yourself carpentry shed, was leaning precariously. The persimmon trees she'd planted together with her mother were extinguished before they could bear fruit even once. The fire was caused by arson. Her father didn't smoke, and she was confident that her perfect mother would never accidentally cause a fire, so the impact upon reaching that conclusion was immeasurable. Her clenched fist trembled. Burning, suspicious-smelling air rose up from the back of her throat. Why? Why did she have to suffer through this? But the happiness of her everyday life was burned to ash in an instant, so she absolutely had to find out why. The inside of her eyes were burning hot. The high-pitched ringing in her ears pierced inside her head, and her consciousness started to feel distant. Hatred. Regret. She wanted to kill the person who forced her to bear witness to this. Damn it! Damn it! The moment she suddenly began to cry out, the nagging air clung to the back of her throat. Her field of view began to shake and blur over, and her consciousness started to feel more and more distant. However, even so, Tomoe didn't cry. Her broken spirit wouldn't reach rock bottom. Like hell, she'd cry. Like hell, she'd admit defeat. I refuse to give in until the criminal who robbed me of what I hold dear is punished for this. Whoever it was that hurt Mom and Dad, I'm certain I'll... Huh? Tomoe suddenly felt something odd about the battered storeroom on the side of the building and looked closer as she tried to remember. Then, she forcefully pushed the sliding door to reveal a toolbox hidden in the back, and inside she found a notebook bound in oiled paper. Kakuchi Airport, June, Wednesday, go. That alone was written on the last page, in large text and circled to stand out.
何度見ても意味わかんないな。
No matter how many times I see it, I still don't know what it means. She let out a sigh. Back when Tomoe's family lived in Tokyo, how was her father involved with the Kakuchi Airport? After becoming a police officer, she found many opportunities to examine case records and carry out investigations of her own. But even after all this time, the mystery remained unsolved.
父さん。
Dad. She gently called out to the empty sky while prying the window's blinds apart with her fingertips. Her father, undeniably, did visit there a few days before the fire occurred, but she still had no idea what he was investigating there. 11 years had passed since then. Still unable to grasp any sort of evidence after all that time, all she could do was quietly bide her time. I think we can maybe read another section. I'm wavering. If I'm reading with low energy, I'm tired, but I'm gonna push through for another section here.
すみません。
Excuse me?
はい。
Yes? A girl's voice called out from the waiting room next to the reception desk. The nurse on shift duty, Hiranuma, stopped writing her report for the fire department and tried to focus her eyes as she turned to look up.
ああ、尾崎さん。
Oh, there's the new person. Ah, Ozaki-san.
こんにちは。
Good evening. It was a girl named Nagisa Ozaki, who she had grown familiar with over the past few months. She lowered her head and hid the bottom of her face behind the bouquet of flowers she was holding in both her hands. Hiranuma had a big grin on her face when she saw that, and she responded with a friendly good evening of her own.
今日もお見舞い？
Paying another visit today?
遠くからなのに毎週大変ね。
You're coming from so far away. Must be tough visiting here every week.
いえ、
No, not at all.
私が好きでやってるだけですから。
I just really like doing it. Nagisa said a few... I believe it would be Nagisa, not Nagisa. Nagisa said a few words to relieve the tension of as she timidly looked up at Hiranuma. The ribbons on both sides of her hair looked good on her, and her slightly angled eyes were full of determination. Her looks were accented by decent accessories, and her lovely blouse presented a moderately luxurious sense of quality. Her expression morphed into a slightly stolen frown. However, Hiranuma had recently come to learn that that was simply a subconscious reaction from her shy personality.
浩平くんとは今お話できますか？
Can I talk with Kohei-kun now?
ええ、多分ね。
Yeah, most likely.
さっき検温した時は昼寝から起きたばかりって言ってたから。
When we took his temperature earlier, he was just getting up from a nap.
そうですか。
Is that so?
よかった。
Great. Then Nagisa relaxed her expression in relief and looked down at the colorful bouquet in her hands. They were fresh, vividly bright pink and green cosmos flowers. The sweet smell even managed to drift through the window, and Hiranuma couldn't help but smile.
たくさんのお花ね。
That's a lot of flowers.
高かったでしょう。
Were they expensive?
いえ、
Oh, no.
園芸部の花壇で育てていたのがやっと咲いたから、浩平くんに直接見せてあげたくて。
These were growing in the gardening club's flower bed. They finally started to bloom, so I wanted to show them to Kohei-kun.
構いませんか？
Would that be alright?
ええ、もちろんよ。
Yes, of course.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you very much. After saying that, Nagisa courteously bowed her head. Even though there was still a hint of awkwardness in her responses, when she first started visiting, she hardly said anything more than yes and no. All things considered, it was a remarkable amount of progress.
ああ、でも花瓶がいるわね。
Oh, then I have a vase.
ちょっと待ってて。
Wait just a moment.
持ってくるから一緒に行きましょう。
Once I grab it, we can go together.
すみません。
Sorry for the hassle.
お願いします。
Please do. Nagisa nodded with a big smile on her face. It was a recent development for her to be comfortable relying on others like this. As she thought that, Hiranuma gave her a wink, then stood up and headed into the back room. The hallway looked somewhat dim, perhaps due to the time of the evening. It was also close to dinner time, so there were very few visitors coming and going.
さっき警報が鳴ってたみたいだって1階で患者のおばあさんから聞いたんですけど。
An old lady on the first floor told me that an alarm went off earlier.
何かありましたか？
Did something happen?
ああ、火災報知器がちょっと故障したみたいなの。
Yeah, seems the fire alarm is having a bit of a malfunction.
すぐ調べたけど、何も異常はなかったみたいだから心配ないわよ。
Checked it out right away, but there's nothing wrong, so there's no need to worry.
そうだったんですか。
Oh, is that all?
聞いてちょっとびっくりしました。
I was a little surprised when I heard about it.
私もよ。驚かせてごめんなさいね。
Same here. Sorry to scare you like that. Thanks to that, Hiranuma had to visit every single hospital room to explain the situation, and only finished up a little while ago. And after this, there's a meeting with a supplier that she'll have to put in overtime to attend.
すみません。忙しい時に。
Sorry to bother you when you're so busy.
気にしないで。
No, don't worry about it.
それにしても、園芸部って珍しい部活動よね。
Anyway, the gardening club is a pretty unusual club activity.
やっぱり花壇でお花とかを育てたりするの？
So, you were raising the flowers in that flower bed yourself?
はい。
That's right.
母がフラワーアレンジメントの教室を開いているから、私も花が好きで。
My mother hosts a flower arrangement class, so I like flowers too.
素敵なお仕事ね。
That's a lovely job.
尾崎さんも将来はお母さんと同じ道を行くのかしら。
I wonder if you'll go down the same career path as your mother, Ozaki-san.
いえ、
Oh, no.
母は大学に行ってからゆっくり考えた方がいいって。
My mother told me to think carefully about what I'm going to do after college.
あんまり儲からないみたいです。趣味の教室って。
Apparently it doesn't make much money. She says it's more of a hobby. The girl shrugged her shoulders, then lightly tilted her head with a bitter smile on her face. Indeed, it would be difficult for a housewife to turn a profit on a hobby with such high expenses, unless it was a particularly innovative or large-scale endeavor. It was also a question of the times. It's natural for a parent to pressure their daughter into an educational background that will lead to a stable future.
尾崎さんも塾とかに通ってるの？
Are you going to cram school too, Ozaki-san?
はい。実は明日の日曜日昇級テストなんです。
That's right. Actually, tomorrow's Sunday. There's a promotional test.
今度上がれば学校の授業よりも進んだ内容を教えてくれるようになるから入試には有利だって。
If I do well this time, I'll be able to take on more advanced classes in school, and that'll give me an advantage on entrance exams.
入試ってまだ先の話でしょ？
Entrance exams? Isn't that a long ways off?
今からいい点を取っておけばどこに行くのでも自由に志望校が選べますから。
If I keep scoring well from now on, I'll be able to go to any school of my choosing.
高校はちょっと無理だけどやっぱ
Got a
り
nerd over
大
here.
学は浩平くんと一緒のところに行きたいし。
High school might be out of the question, but I'd like to go to the same college as Koi-kun.
そうなの。頑張ってね。
Is that so? Do your best then.
はい。
I will. In that quiet reply, there was a hint of stiffness. That was a product of the anger she felt about the unreasonable circumstances separating her from her favorite person.
でもそれなら差し出がましくてごめんね。
In that case, sorry for being so nosy.
だったら余計に毎週新幹線を使ってまでここに通うのは大変なんじゃないの？
Isn't it a lot of trouble taking the train here every week?
交通費だって。
The fare must be expensive.
大丈夫です。
It's fine.
交通費は親が全部出してくれてますから。
My parents are covering the fare.
急な引っ越しだったしそれくらいの甘えは許してくれるって。
We moved very suddenly, so they're doing it as a way of making it up to me.
へえ、いいご両親ね。
Wow, you have some nice parents.
私に気を使ってるんですよ。
They're always worried about me.
むしろ怖がってるのかな。
No, maybe they're scared.
私もあの子みたいになっちゃうかも。
Afraid that I might end up like her.
私が不満を抱えて爆発しないように。
They don't want my frustrations to make me explode.
だから帰りが遅くなっても口うるさく言われなくなりました。
So, even if I'm late coming home, they won't make a fuss.
あなたを信じてるからって怯えた目で言って。
They'll just say, we trust you, with a frightened look in their eyes.
そんな腫れ物扱いに優しくされるとかえってショックなんですけど。
It's actually pretty shocking to receive such gentle treatment.
そう。
I see. As Hiranuma responded, she started to wonder if something was going on at home. Even though they saw each other face to face every week, she never pried into Nagisa's affairs. This was the first time they actually discussed it.
家族に何か言われたのだろうか。
Wonder if her family said something to her. With those doubts in mind, Hiranuma opened her mouth, searching for the right words to say. But just then,
平沼さん、
Hiranuma-san. The smile disappeared from Nagisa's face. She stopped on the spot. Following her lead, Hiranuma also stopped in place and turned to her with a puzzled expression.
どうしたの？
What's wrong?
あれから浩平くんどうですか？
How has Koi-kun been since then?
ええ、順調よ。
Right, he's been doing well.
視力も回復してきているみたいだし、退院はもうすぐかしらね。
His eyesight seems to be recovering, so he'll probably leave the hospital soon.
いえ、そっちじゃなくて。
No, that's not what I'm asking about. Hiranuma avoided giving Nagisa's question an immediate response.
例のことか。
The incident. Then she sighed and turned to ask the girl about it.
ねえ、尾崎さん。
Hey, Ozaki-san.
この前沢村くんが寝言で変なことを言ってたって話、本当なの？
You mentioned that Sawamura-kun was saying weird things in his sleep before. Is that really true?
はい。
Yes. Nagisa's eyes darted back and forth in confusion, but after a brief hesitation, she nodded and responded.
先週、浩平くんが高熱を出して寝込んでいた時です。
When I came last week, Koi-kun was sleeping in bed with a high fever.
うなされたように、お社様が来る、助けてくれって。
It sounded like he was having a bad dream. He was saying, Oishiro-sama is watching, or coming, save me.
私、はっきり聞きました。
I clearly heard him say that.
それについて彼は、なんて？
Did you talk to him about it?
そんなこと知らないって。
He said, I don't know anything about that.
主治医さんに相談しても同じ答えでした。
I asked his doctor, but I got the same answer.
でも本当に彼、私の手を握ってそう言ったんです。
But it's true. He held my hand as he said it.
なのに、誰も信じてくれない。
Even so, nobody believes me. Nagisa dejectedly drooped her shoulders and bit her lip. Didn't look like she was telling a lie, but she was deeply disappointed that nobody believed her. Oishiro-sama. Honestly, there's a word he couldn't recall hearing before. Rumors allege that's the name of the guardian deity that, from some remote village's religious beliefs.
奇妙な話よね。
It's such an odd story.
本人が知らない言葉が寝言で出てくるなんて。
A person speaking a word they don't even know in their sleep.
担当の先生も心療内科の先生も彼の問診ではそんな言葉は出てこなかったって言ってたし、どういうことなのかしら。
Both the presiding physician and the psychosomatic medicine doctor said that the word never came up during his consultations. I wonder what it means.
私が聞きたいです。
That's what I want to know.
一体どうしてなんですか？
Why on earth did he say it?
浩平くんがお社様って知りもしない言葉を夢の中で言うなんて。
Why would Koi-kun mention the name Oishiro-sama in his sleep? A name he shouldn't even know.
ああ、ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry.
別にあなたを疑ってのことじゃないの。本当よ。
I didn't mean to doubt you like that. Honestly. Nagisa had a hint of rage in her voice, so Hiranuma tried to say something to calm her down.
ただ、本人も知らない言葉が出てくるなんておかしいと思う。
Still, I do think it's odd that even he doesn't know the word he spoke.
どこかで聞いたか、誰かから聞かされたか。
Could he have heard it somewhere? Who could have told him?
オカルトじゃあるまいし、そうでなきゃありえないこと。
I refuse to attribute it to the occult.
だから、それを知りたいだけなの。
So, I just want to know why.
何か心当たりある？
Is there anything you can think of?
だったら、きっとあの子です。
In that case, I'm sure it was from that girl.
あの子が浩平くんに吹き込んだんです。
She must have been the one who told Koi-kun. Nagisa clenched her teeth with a look of hatred on her face as she said that. She squeezed the bouquet close to her chest, and a few of the flower petals fell down to the ground.
あの子って、転校していったあなたのお友達？
That girl, that friend of yours who transferred schools?
名前は確か。
I'm sure her name was...
友達じゃ
She's not a friend.
浩平君たちにひどいことして
She did something horrible to Kohei-kun and the others. The girl spat that out in the deep, heavy, reverberating tone. Since Hiranuma knew the history of why the boy was hospitalized, all she could do was sigh. 6 months ago, a female student caused a violent incident at one particular school. It wasn't covered in the newspapers, but Hiranuma heard rumors about the horrible scene. The girl suddenly attacked her close friends after school, beating them indiscriminately with a metal bat. And one of the victims was Nagisa's boyfriend Kohei, who suffered injuries so severe that it nearly blinded him. After that, she continued her rampage throughout the school building, smashing the windows in the hallways and striking lockers and walls in the classrooms, until eventually she was apprehended by several PE teachers. Various factors were cited as possible instigators for the incident, including stress over exams and human relations. However, since the female student never gave an official explanation to the victims, there was nothing to prove the truth. The school was also afraid of how the incident would affect their appearances, so they did their best to prevent their release of information. That wasn't just in consideration for the students, but also to keep the parents from getting upset and pulling their kids away just before exams. In that sense, it was a completely natural response. Moreover, not only did the perpetrator keep her mouth shut, but the victims did the same. And so, the incident simply became a thing of the past.
ユグレーナさんだっけ
Lorena Ryugu-san, right?
みんな仲良しグループだったのよね
You were all a close group of friends.
結局あの子は全然謝罪も何も言わずにどこかへ転校していきました
In the end, she never said anything to apologize. She just transferred somewhere else.
先生たちに行き先を聞いても誰も教えてくれないんです
Even if I ask the teachers where she went, nobody will tell me.
浩平君はもう少しで取り返しのつかないほどの大怪我をしたのに
Even though Kohei-kun suffered a serious injury that he'll never completely recover from.
尾崎さん
Ozaki-san,
許せないです今度会ったら私
I'll never forgive her. Next time I see her, I'll...
落ち着いて
Calm down.
そんな顔をしていたら沢村君が心配するわよ
If Sawamura-kun sees you looking like this, you'll make him worry, you know? Huh? Oh. The girl took a deep breath and hung her head, seemingly to finally come back to her senses. And when she noticed the bouquet was slightly crushed, she hurried to straighten it out.
ねえ尾崎さん
Hey, Ozaki-san.
はい
Yes?
気持ちはわかるけど怒ったり憎んだりしていても相手はもういないの
I understand how you must feel, but even if you're feeling angry or hateful, she's already gone.
だったらあなたは今いる大切な人のためにあなたのできることをすべきじゃないかしら
In which case, shouldn't you focus your attention on the people who are important to you now?
その方がきっと沢村くんも喜ぶわ
I'm sure that would make Sawamura-kun happy.
だからもうこの話はやめましょう
So, let's stop talking about that story.
ひょっとしたら何かの本かテレビで見ただけの言葉かもしれないし勘ぐりすぎると辛くなるわよ
Maybe you just heard that word while watching TV or reading a book or something. Thinking too hard about it will only hurt you. Nagisa responded with a faint nod, but the look on her face made it clear she still wasn't convinced. Eventually, two of them reached a hospital room at the end of the hallway. The tag next to the door had the name Kuhei Sawamura written in felt-tip pen. Hiranuma lightly knocked on the door.
沢村さん
Sawamura-san?
彼女が面会に来てますよ
Your girlfriend is here to see you. Huh? Girlfriend?
あら違うの
Girl? Huh? Am I wrong?
いやその
No, Her face was bright red, so she hid it behind the bouquet. Hiranuma gently gazed at her innocent reaction, but once started feeling uncomfortable, she turned toward the door.
あれ
Huh? He normally responded immediately, but there was no reply.
また寝ちゃったのかな
He must be sleeping again.
入りますね
Coming in.
え
Huh? Aw, shit. Without hearing a word in response, Hiranuma put a hand on the doorknob, but her unease suddenly transformed into suspicion because the door was locked.
おかしいわね。どうして。
That's odd. I wonder why.
平沼さん
Hiranuma-san?
あ、ちょっと待ってね。
One moment, please. She pulled a keychain out of her pocket, then inserted one of the keys into the keyhole. All the rooms in the hospital were equipped with locks due to certain circumstances. The patient can lock them from the inside, but the on-call nurse is still able to unlock them using the master key. However, this patient never locked his door even once since he was transferred to this room last week, so...
私出直した方が。
maybe I should come again later.
大丈夫よ。私が説明するから。
It's alright. I'll explain things.
沢村さん、入りますよ。
Sawamura-san, I'm coming in.
失礼します。
Please excuse me. After saying that, Hiranuma opened the door to the hospital room and stepped inside.
え
Huh?
浩平くん
Kohei-kun? However, there was nobody inside the hospital room. The comforter was overturned in a way that made it look like someone was in there recently. The inside of the room was very quiet. The only sound was the clamor of a caged canary, which was placed inside the room to comfort the patient.
どこに行ったのかしら。
I wonder where he went.
部屋を出たのなら鍵がかかっているはずがないのに。
He shouldn't have been able to lock the door if he left the room.
あれ
Oh shit, it's
窓が
another...
開けっぱなし。
It's a closed room escape. Uh-huh. Someone left the window open.
私閉めてきます。
Oh, I'll close it. Just then, an evening breeze blew in, causing the skin-toned curtains to flutter. The girl placed the bouquet on the table, then quietly approached the window. She began to put her hand on the handle of the window, then leaned out. Scream.
どうしたの、大崎さん。
What's wrong, Ozaki-san? Well. The girl remained fixed in place, gazing down from the window, trembling with a pale look on her face. Then, Hiranuma ran to her, looked in the same direction.
沢村くん
Sawamura-kun! The boy dressed in pajamas was lying on the ground down below, with his arms and legs spread wide. And the ground around the body was a distinctly different hue from the setting sun. The gray concrete was dyed in dark black. Kohei-kun! Kohei-kun! Oh, she's gonna be pissed. Revenge. She's gonna feel a certain type of revenge is needed.
大崎さん危ない。
Ozaki-san, be careful!
あなたまで落ちるわよ。
You could fall too! Kohei-kun! Kohei-kun! Lovely. Hiranuma grabbed the screaming girl, then turned and retreated to the wall across from the window. Then, she snatched the nearby nurse intercom receiver and began shouting into it without waiting for a response.
もしもし、ナースセンター。
Hello, nurse center!
842号室の患者が窓から転落しました。
The patient in room 842 has fallen from the window.
すぐ警察に連絡を。
Call the police immediately.
ああ、それから担当医の戸田先生を至急に。
And then call Dr. Toto right away. Looking down from the 8th floor window, it was a miserable sight to behold. That distance was the boundary between the living and the dead. Ew.
は？取材ですか？
Huh? An interview.
そうだ。
That's right. Tomoe received a call from Chief Yamaoki to report in immediately after lunch. That was the first thing he said after she willingly entered his office.
警察庁の広報室からの正式な要請でな。
It's a formal request from the Public Relations Officer of the National Police Agency.
とある民放キー局の番組企画にぜひとも君の協力が必要とのことだ。
They're collecting programming from key stations, so your cooperation is necessary.
まあ、大方は想像できると思うがね。
Well, sure you can imagine how important this is.
大体は。
More or less. Tomoe disheartenedly shrugged her shoulders as she muttered that to herself. Ever since making a name for herself as a detective, she was starting to get sick of the requests for interviews that came with the new title and workplace. Especially recently, since she had received multiple requests for TV appearances. It was understandable. Frequent appearances from female police officers would bring in better ratings than some rough athletic police officer. Her issue wasn't so much with the composition, but rather the theme.
女性の権利拡大って柄じゃないんだけど。
It's primarily about the expansion of women's rights. She looked through the proposal from the TV station and sighed. The content of the program detailed the success story of a female police officer who was selected as part of the National Police Agency's recommended group from her post at Ibaraki Prefectural Police Department. Apparently. In short, they wanted to publicize a story about equal employment opportunities among men and women, as was prevalent in recent years. Honestly, it wasn't very interesting.
実際、男女間に差異があって不思議じゃないわけだし。
Really, there's nothing mysterious about the different ways men and women are treated. As much as Tomoe heard people say, even women are capable, and don't discriminate, it all seemed like just putting on a bold front. She was only receiving this level of recognition because she was a woman. Besides, Tomoe toiled endlessly on her criminal investigation activities day and night, seeking opportunities to solve the mysteries her father left behind. So, to instead twist her story into something about expanded women's rights to appeal to the enthusiasm of working women, she couldn't think of anything more disrespectful. That's why Tomoe came to the same decision, that's why Tomoe came to the same decision every time. I said that weird. I stuttered in a weird way there. So, in order to keep up appearances,
お断りします。
I refuse. A curt reply.
広報室からの依頼は初めてですが、理由は同じです。
This is the first time the request has come from the public relations office, but the reason is still the same.
テレビ出演しても、私には語るべきものが何もありませんので。
Even if I appear on TV, I have nothing to say.
まあそんなに堅苦しく考えるほどのことではないと思うがね。
Well, I don't think it requires such formal consideration.
それに、私は捜査に関わる立場にありますので、顔が知られると、それだけ活動がやりにくくなります。
Besides, I'm actively handling investigations at the moment. Having people recognize my face would only make those activities more difficult.
ですから、
That's
せ
a
っか
good
くの
point.
話ですが、辞退させていただきます。
That's why I can't accept this.
もう、相変わらず硬いな。
You're always so stubborn.
一回テレビに出たくらいですぐに覚えられたりしないっての。
Nobody's going to remember you off the bat after a single TV appearance.
身長を期すのは刑事として当然のことよ。
It's only natural for a detective to be cautious.
まどか、なんであんたがここに？
And Madoka, why are you even here? Although she noticed the incongruity a little while ago, Tomoe finally turned and asked about it. Madoka and Fujita were standing by the wall when Tomoe first entered the chief's office.
所長に何か用なの？
Do you have some business with the chief?
関係ないんだったら公務中だし、席を外してもらいたいんだけど。
You're on active duty. This doesn't concern you. I'd like you to leave.
いや、だって呼ばれたから。ね
Actually, we were called here.
え、藤田さん。
Right, Fujita-san?
あ、自分もなんで呼ばれたのかわからないんですが。
Oh, yeah, although I don't actually know why. Fujita looked apologetic as he said that, scratching his head. Apparently, he knelt down and begged for forgiveness in front of his wife's parents after the misunderstanding from that case the other day, and was allegedly forgiven. Thanks to that, he was able to go into work this morning full of joy, fondly telling Tomoe the story. The people involved took it very seriously, but looking at it in hindsight, it was just a minor nuisance. But she did keep thinking to herself, go to hell, as she shoveled down her lunch hamburgers. Hamburgers.
いいなあ、東京出張。
How nice! Business trip to Tokyo.
お土産よろしくね、お姉ちゃん。
Bring me back a souvenir, sis.
だから行かないんだってば。
I said I'm not going.
とにかく断ってください。
Anyway, please accept my refusal.
ただでさえ今は結構案件が多くて、それどころではありませんので。
Even now, I have too many projects to handle and not enough time to finish them. Dedicating time to a TV appearance would mean suspending work on all the investigations currently being carried out, and the only way to make it up would be to work unpaid overtime. Unlike Madoka, who had the freedom to frolic about, Shots fired. Tomoe was very busy with investigation activities every single day, so she couldn't find enjoyment in setting them aside.
それは困った。
That's a problem.
はどうしてです？
Huh? Why?
あ、いや、もう OK してしまったからな。
Well, I already gave them the go-ahead. Huh? Tomoe cast aside her cool demeanor and shouted out loud.
ほら、これ出張許可証。
Here, this is a business trip permit.
あいにくグリーン車ではないが旅費は広報室持ちとのことだから新幹線の指定席で。
Unfortunately, travel expenses are determined by the Public Relations Office, so you won't be in a first-class cabin, but it does give you a reserved seat at the bullet train. On the bullet train.
ちょっと待ってください。
Hold on, please.
なんで受けるんです？なんで私に無断で？
Why did you accept that? And why are you giving it to me without my permission?
そら君、聞けば断ると思ったからな。
That's because if I had asked, you would have refused.
そういう問題じゃないでしょ。
That's not the problem.
私の意思は？
What about my wishes?
権利は？
Or my rights?
っていうか、何の権限であなたがOK なんて出してんですか？
What gave you the authority to say, okay, to this?
いや、実はここだけの話。
Well, truth of the matter is,
私は所長で君の上司だから。
I'm the chief. That means I'm your boss.
秘密っぽく言わなくても知ってるわ。
You don't have to say that like it's some kind of secret.
大体上司のあなたにあるのは承認権で決定権じゃないでしょ。
Even if you are my boss, you shouldn't have the authority to make this kind of decision.
そうなのか。
Oh, really?
確認するな。
Don't agree to this.
冗談じゃない。絶対嫌です、こんな依頼は。
I'm serious. I absolutely despise these sorts of requests.
そもそもテレビ番組に現役の刑事が出演なんて一体何を考えているんですか？
What on earth are they thinking, putting an active duty detective on TV?
今後は秘匿捜査もできなくなりますよ。
Wouldn't that make it impossible to conduct confidential investigations in the future? A loud bang roared as Tomoe intensely slammed her hands down on the luxury desk, screaming and shouting. Any ordinary detective, no, even a hardened criminal would tremble before this display. Fujita muttered something to that effect to himself. However, no matter how much she had to say, Yamaoki ignored her booming voice and simply continued polishing the golf club he had just picked up.
聞いてるんですか、所長？
Are you even listening, Chief?
もうちゃんと聞いてるぞ。
Yes, I'm listening carefully.
いやいや、最近年のせいか耳が遠くなったみたいでな。
Unfortunately, my hearing has gotten weaker in my old age.
今くらいの大声ならちょうどいいくらいだ。
It would help if you could talk a little louder.
で、何の話だ？
So, what were you saying?
真面目に聞け。
Seriously, listen to me!
お姉ちゃん、
Sis,
冷静に。
calm down, okay? And as we all know, when someone is freaking out, telling them to calm down has a 100% success rate, correct? Madoka frantically moved in front of Tomoe and desperately tried to stop her momentum. If she couldn't help it here, it wouldn't be much longer until the verbal assault turned physical.
もう、カオルさんじゃなかった。所長も。
That's enough, Chief.
あんまり見ない警部をからかわないでください。
Please stop teasing Chief Inspector Manai so much.
いや、すまんな、ミナイ君。
Ah, my apologies, Manai-kun.
ちょっとした場を温めるジョークだったんだが。
I was only trying to warm the mood.
むしろ怒りで熱いわ。
More like burning with rage.
ミナイさん、ブレイクブレイク。
Minai-san, take it easy.
エキサイトしないでください。
Please, don't get so worked up. Perhaps concerned about touching a woman's body, Fujita kept a short distance away while trying to comfort her. With the two of them attempting to stop her, she started to regain her composure. She adjusted her collar and took a deep breath.
とにかく、私はお断りします。
In any case, I refuse.
なんでしたら、私が直接テレビ局にご連絡しても構いませんので。
If you'd like, I can tell the TV station directly.
まあ、聞きたまえ、ミナイ君。
Listen to me, Manai-kun.
そもそも 警察官は国民の税金で生活している公僕の官だ。
Police officers are civil servants first and foremost, funded by the people's tax dollars.
そうなると当然その勤務内容がそれに見合った基準に達しているか、常に国民に開示しておく必要がある。
As a matter of course, we need open disclosure with the public so they can determine if our work has met their standards.
また大規模捜査においてマスコミの協力はなくてはならないもの。
Additionally, cooperation with the mass media is indispensable on our large-scale investigations.
そのためには日頃から懇意にしておかなければいかんと思うのだが。
With that in mind, we need to maintain friendly relations with them going forward.
違うか?
Am I wrong?
それは
Well, those were good reasons, but even hearing it straight from the chief's mouth wasn't enough to convince her.
でもそれは広報課の仕事でしょ。
But isn't that the responsibility of the public relations office?
現役の刑事の顔を公衆の面前にさらしていいことがあるとも思えません。
I still think no good will come from exposing the face of an active duty detective to the public.
なに、一度の出演で顔を覚えられたりはしない。
Oh, nobody will remember a face after a single appearance.
大衆に記憶力がそれほどあるのなら、指名手配犯などあっという間に捕まっているはずだからな。
If the public was that good at remembering faces, we'd have a far easier time catching wanted criminals.
ビデオに撮られたらどうするんですか？
What if they videotape it?
それに番組の再放送だってあるでしょ。
Besides, couldn't they rebroadcast it later on?
そもそもテレビ局に個人情報とかノウハウを晒すことにはリスクも問題もあって。
There are risks and problems that come from exposing personal information to TV stations. Just then, looking at the golf club Yamaoki was polishing a moment ago stirred up a memory in Tomoe. It was brand new, and the design resembled the imported titanium driver she recently saw in a TV commercial. However, the Japanese release certainly shouldn't have been for a little while. However, ... The Japanese release certainly shouldn't have been for a while longer, but he was able to obtain one despite that.
所長、ま
Chief?
さか。
No way.
いや、君の出演 OK したらほんのお礼だってテレビ局の人がな。
Oh, this was a gift from the TV station after accepting your participation.
いいだろこれ。
It's nice, isn't it? Flash. Jesus. I'll kill you.
あんた、私をドライバー一本で撃ったのか？
You sold me out for a single golf club?
皆さん、ストップ！
Minai-san, stop it! Sis, stop it! Madoka and Vegeta just barely managed to restrain Tomoe, who was screaming threats while starting to climb over the desk, ready to bludgeon him.
なんだ。
Oh, that's a good picture. Can I... What's the button for... Ba-da-bum, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba. That's a good picture. Look at Vegeta having to just like restrain her. What's that?
君も欲しかったのかね、このドライバー。
Did you want the golf club?
ええ、
Yeah!
いただけますか？今すぐに。
So give it to me now! She's gonna take it and beat him with it.
それであんたのドタマ買っちまって、裏庭の池にホールインしてやら。
I'll smack your head hard enough to launch it in the pond out back!
未来さん、
Minai-san,
行きません、人情沙汰は。
don't resort to bloodshed!
それに署内でこれ以上騒動を起こしたら本気で懲戒者ですよ。
Besides, if you take this any further, you're liable to face disciplinary action.
私が懲戒ならこいつはなんだ？
If I'm going to be disciplined, what about him?
贈収賄の現行犯でしょうが。
This is a flagrant case of bribery. Indeed, there is no denying that.
藤田君、私が責任取るからこんな極悪人とっとと逮捕しろ。
Fujita-kun, I'll take responsibility, so arrest this villain.
そしたら私が今すぐ地検に起訴して刑務所にぶち込んでやる。
Then I'll prosecute him at the local court and have him sent behind bars right away.
待ってよ、お姉ちゃんってば。
Ooh, wait a minute, sis. Ah! At this point, Fujita's aversion to touching a woman's body was no longer a factor. If anything were to happen to the chief here, staff at Personnel Affairs would never keep this quiet. Neither of them wanted to damage her career with something so stupid. Let me go, Fujita-kun! Don't you have the heart of a detective within you? If you even have the tiniest sense of justice inside you, can you overlook the corruption right in front of you?
まあ俺もちょっとひどいとは思いますが
Well, I do think it's a little unreasonable. After all, no matter how you twisted the interpretation, it was clearly a bribe. Deputy Chief Hata was eagerly searching for reasons to throw the chief and Tomoe out, so it would be outrageous if the story got out.
藤田巡査部長、君は南井君の味方か
Sergeant Fujita, are you taking Minai-kun's side on this?
は
Huh?
味方も何も一般的な常識論から考えて自分は
I'm not taking any sides, I'm just thinking about it for myself using common sense.
ならば君から南井君を説得したまえ
Then why don't you try to persuade Minai-kun?
一般的な常識論でな
Using your common sense.
え
Huh? With attention suddenly directed at him, Fujita turned to Yamaoki with a confused look on his face, while still restraining Tomoe. Persuade her? Even though it was an attempt to keep her under control, he couldn't help but think, why me? And no matter how he looked at it, no matter how much he thought about it, what Tomoe said was definitely true.
いや常識って話で言えば
Well, thinking about it with common sense.
やっぱそういう利益供与の図り方は良くないかと思いますが
I have to wonder if it's proper to take advantage of such benefits.
ならば質問を変えよ
In that case, let's change the question.
う私に逆らえば私が人事に働きかけて間違いなく来期の昇給は遅れる
If you disobey me, I'll turn to personnel affairs, and I can guarantee that your raise next term will be delayed. This guy's corrupt as hell, dude. That's crazy. Your bonuses and assessments will also receive a thorough review.
でそうなった時に君の奥さんがその理由を君に問いただした後
And after that, you can explain it to your wife. Also, I keep seeing this. The flag behind Madoka. I keep thinking this bit is like a party hat with a little fluff ball on the top, or a little ball like a party hat. I just keep saying that. I keep seeing it. I'm like, no, it's a flag behind her. I wonder if she'll forgive you. That's dirty. How could he exploit the weak spot of a married man? And with that case happening just the other day, if he got his bonus cut due to something else involving Tomoe, no doubt about it, there'd be hell to pay from his wife this time.
それは
That's
藤田君
Fujita-kun.
それを踏まえて再度質問しよう
With that in mind, I'll ask you again.
南井警部を説得するか奥さんにまた土下座をするか
Will you try to persuade Chief Inspector Minai, or do you intend to kneel down before your wife once more?
二つに一つ選ぶのは君だ
You have to decide, one or the other. And where did he even get that information from? Last time he kneeled to his wife was at her parents' house. Normally, Fujita would struggle to make a choice before ultimately siding with justice. However, he felt a taste of death just last night and absolutely didn't want to experience it again. And so, he gave in without a fight.
皆さん
Minai-san,
お願いします
please,
取材出てください
please accept the interview.
は
Huh?
あ藤田あんた上司を売る気か
Fujita, are you trying to sell out your superior?
すみませんすみません
I'm sorry.
もう俺家内の実家の前で土下座するのは嫌なんです
I've already bowed down to the ground at her parents' house once, and I'd hate to do it again.
あれは心が 折れるんです。本気で。
Seriously, it would break my heart.
自分がものすごく惨めで情けないやつに思えて、人格を否定された気分になるんです。
It made me feel so miserable and useless, as though my very character was being destroyed. Also, Madoka looks so smug here. She's liking this too much. You shameless bastard! It wasn't clear who she was directing that insult towards.
まあまあ落ち着きたまえみないくん。
Oh my. Calm down, Manaiku.
君は勘違いをしているぞ。
This is a misunderstanding. What is?
これは賄賂ではなくただのプレゼントだ。
This isn't a bribe, it's just a present.
別に私が要求したわけでも、これに対して利便を図ったわけでもない。
It's not like I specifically requested it, it was just a convenient development.
まあ雑誌を見ながらゴルフの話になった時に、これはいいなとは言ったわね。
Well, we were talking about golf while flipping through a magazine, and I happened to say, this looks nice. The rest of the world would call that extortion, you greedy old monster. Besides, even if it was just a convenient development, you planned this without my consent.
いやいや、それは個人的な見解の相違というものだ。
No, that's simply a difference in personal opinion.
とりあえず要件は伝えたぞ。来週の予定ちゃんと開けておくように。
Anyway, the message has already been passed on. Keep your plans open for next week.
では。
That is all. You're full of shit! Wait! Having said that, Yamaoki walked out of his office with a calm expression as Tomoe rampaged behind him. Hey! Damn it, Chief, you can't run away!
未来さん落ち着いて。
Minai-san, calm down!
おっとい。だだだだだだだ。
Ow! Ow, 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 ow,
皆さん、たま
ow. Minai-san, time out!
俺に関節技はやめてください。
Please, let me go!
にゃにゃ
This is just such slapstick humor. A dial turned up to the max.
うわ折れます折れます。今度は心じゃなくて腕が折れちまいます。
It's gonna break! It's gonna break! Instead of my heart, this time my arm is going to get broken! Hello? First Investigation Division? If Takayashiki-san or Hanada-san are there... Oh, Ando-san is there too. It's urgent. All hands, report to battle stations. I mean, come to the chief's office. Assistant Director Minai has gone mad. God damn you! And then a nuke went off. Days later, a certain detective summarized this incident in a single sentence.
俺、未来さんの静止役とライオンの飼育係、どっちか選べって言われたら、迷うことなく飼育係っす。
If I had to choose between restraining Minai-san and taming lions, I'd choose the lions without a moment of hesitation. Wow, 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 wow. That's so wacky. Well, a very interesting start here to the to the arc. A little bit of the showing of the new character, who I assume it's gonna be she basically has ties to Rina back before Rina moved to moved to the village. So the incident at the old school before that basically caused her to move, kind of thing. So that's interesting. Interesting story bit. Tragedy happens. I'd imagine, like other times, they're gonna use then that opportunity to springboard. I don't know if it's because my initial guess was, oh, she's being sent to this TV thing, and that's when she's gonna have the opportunity. But I don't know. I don't know how that would make sense necessarily. But you would imagine at some point the Tomoe team, investigation team, is gonna then cross paths with this new person, and it's gonna be a thing. Especially if this new person, whose name escapes me at the moment, Ozaki, if this news person actually holds a lot of anger and frustration for what just took place there at that hospital for multiple reasons. So that's my guess how it's going to unfold. Kind of interesting then, depending on how far that person, the new character, gets as far as enacting whatever it is she's going to want to enact, revenge-wise. A little bit of theorizing there. We're going to call it a night there, if that wasn't already made clear. Like I said, I can't go too late. I'm already going off quite a little bit of very little sleep from last night, and then I know I'm probably going to be out decently late tomorrow night, if I had to guess. So, again, no stream tomorrow. Even if I got home early, probably wouldn't want to be... honestly wouldn't have the energy to stream anything. So we'll be back Wednesday night. Most likely Death Stranding, especially since then... I know it sounds crazy or whatever, but that would mean I hadn't played Death Stranding then since Sunday, and we're still wanting to hit pedal to the metal with that game. And then obviously no stream Thursday, and then we'll be back with something on Friday. Maybe a really decent sized chunk of reading Higurashi on Saturday. Can't guarantee it, obviously. So many days before that. But maybe we can get a really decent chunk of this into this come Saturday. So, another arc started. Can't wait. Can't wait to see. Kind of wacky beginning here. Oh, Tomoe, you zany, quirky, tomboyish or whatever investigator who rebukes all guys' advances or whatever. Hopefully she stays alive in this arc. I would bet she does. Call it a gut feeling. Feels right. This is maybe going to be the happy ending we need for all these characters. Alright. Until Wednesday, nothing Tuesday. Have a great early to midweek this week. Stay safe. Stay well. I'll see you in another stream.